On today's program, we're going on a journey to explore fun, exciting, and affordable places you can go as a divorcee or a single parent with kids. According to the experts, taking a vacation during a divorce has many mental and emotional, and get this, physical health benefits. It also helps lower stress, it ignites your creativity, you sleep better, you're active, and traveling also helps ward off mood swings brought on by divorce. Welcome to another edition of the series, Ways Through Divorce. I'm your host, Ilyssa Panitz, the media industry's only divorce journalist. And today, you may want to pack your bags because we are super proud to welcome travel expert and author Lisa Niver. Lisa is an award-winning travel journalist who has been to 102 countries, 6 continents, and I'm super jealous, lived on a cruise ship. She's also the author of the best-selling book, Bravish, One Breakup, 6 Continents, and Feeling Fearless After 50, which she wrote after going through her own divorce. You can buy it now on Amazon, and you'll learn how she bounced back and how traveling helped her build back better. Lisa, welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to talk about this because, you know, a lot of people often do go through divorce, and when they do, they're thinking sad and they're upset, but you say they should be thinking about a vacation.
Well, I know for myself, when I was going through my divorce, and I know for many other women and men that I've spoken to, it's so, as you know, upsetting and devastating, and I felt like a failure. And to be honest, I didn't know that I would ever travel again. I was traveling when I left my spouse, and for me, taking those small steps back really helped, like you said, my mental health, my spiritual health. I remembered the things that I loved again.
Yeah, now if somebody is hesitant to take a trip, because a lot of people do isolate in the beginning of a divorce because they're feeling maybe a little sad, they're not ready to go out and be social, you say instead of thinking of the big venture, start slowly by doing an activity because they're fun and affordable and a great first step. And we're going to go to our first full screen because you have a lot of examples. Tell us what a few of them are.
Well, so one of the things you mentioned that I have my book, and in my book, one of the things I talk about is I did 50 dares before I turned 50. That was how I started again. I reinvented myself after my divorce. And a lot of the things were very small things like going to yoga class or going to salsa dance class. And I know a lot of people want to have the big splashy, I went away for a month, but for me, I barely could go an hour. It felt like I could only go an hour without crying, like I could make it to class. And I think that one of the things for myself was just getting out of the house. Like even just going to a new restaurant was a big ordeal for me. And I think that going to a specific class, I joined a salsa class, I did perform with the group, and that made a huge difference for me. And that class, actually, they went on a trip and danced in Cuba. So I think that's one way to get back out there is to find those affinity groups. Like my yoga teacher took a group for yoga and surfing in Panama. And there's a bunch of other trips that I did personally. But I think for me, what I always recommend people is very small steps. Go an hour from your house. Don't start out with this grand, you know, I did backpack for multiple years, but I didn't start that after my divorce. I went back to the baby steps.
Yeah, and other suggestions I know that you have include things like wine tasting, cooking class, and there's something called the Gold Star app that you were telling me has tons and tons of suggestions. But for divorcees who want to take a trip, maybe visit a country they've always wanted to see, what are some great spots or even tours that you recommend for people traveling solo and on a budget?
Yeah, so that is one of the things that I think is really important is to how can you make it happen? So one place I definitely recommend checking out is Earthwatch, which is citizen science, and you go with a researcher. I did one in Belize, and you get to participate. It's an inherent group. Everybody's interested in the same thing, whether you're looking at iguanas in the Galapagos or whales. And another program that I'm very interested in is called Road Scholar. And I know you and I have talked about Gray Divorce. So Road Scholar starts with people in their 50s The average age is closer to 72, but they have a lot of women who are married, but the spouse doesn't travel. So it's a lot of women in all different stages that are on these different trips. And they have, again, lectures and education, and they have programs all around the world. So I think that for me, as an educator, that's what I'm always looking for, is like, where's the connection? And you mentioned the Gold Star app. So that has great prices. You can go for $12 to see a theater show where you thought it might be $112. And so I think it's always important to find the things that have a great value.
Oh, I love that. And that takes us to the fact of today. As of January 2024, travel companies report that 85% of their solo travelers are women, which is really interesting. Why are more women traveling than men?
It's such a curious question. I don't know why that is, but I know Rhodes Scholar has research like that also about solo women traveling. And one of the things that we've been discussing is, why don't the men want to go? And I don't know, but the women definitely do. And so, at least you're finding the people that you want to travel with, whether it's an affinity group. I know I'm going soon for a reunion for my college, and I know they have trips. Different alumni associations have whole travel programs. So there's a lot of ways. I know for myself, I felt so embarrassed and alone when I was getting divorced. I think it's the hardest thing to start reaching out again and find those places, which is why I always recommend trying with a class or your university, something where you inherently feel that connection, because I think so many of us feel so disconnected in those moments and in that trauma.
Let's shift a bit and talk about single parents who have the children for a long weekend or a holiday break. And I get this all the time on my Instagram feed, the all-inclusives. Good idea, affordable, and if so, where do you suggest they go?
It's a great question. And personally, I think all-inclusives are helpful. Sometimes you look at the price of an all-inclusive and you're like, is this a good value? So I was recently in Tulum at the Hilton All-Inclusive in Tulum, and then in Cancun at another Hilton All-Inclusive. And one of the things that I think about all-inclusive is there's no shock at the end. I remember when my nephew was little and we were staying at a hotel and he was desperate for chocolate chip pancakes, which I think in the hotel were $25 or $31, and he had 3 bites because he was 2. And at the all-inclusive, you don't have to worry. You can have the food all day. And one of the things I noticed, of course, at the Hilton All-Inclusive, like all the other ones, they have kids programs. One of the things at this particular one, the room service was 24/7 for free. Wow. They had an incredible swimming area where the kids could walk through all these waterfalls, and there was just so much going on. But one of the things they have is you can hire a nanny. Cribs are included. And personally, I was really thrilled to see that there, as well as I know on Royal Caribbean, they have lifeguards all the time. So people ask me, wouldn't it be better just to go to an Airbnb? So the problem, I think, with some choices like an Airbnb is it's not a vacation for the mom, it's a relocation, right? If you still have to go to the supermarket and you still have to drive the car and you're still washing the dishes, I mean, are your kids having a great time? Yes. But is the mom getting a chance to relax? I don't think so. So if you can drop your kids off and go see the show or have a drink that's included and not have to drive to the supermarket, all of these all-inclusives, they have a medical team, they have a security team. I think that if you want to really relax, you need to know that if something goes wrong, what are you going to do?
What about cruises?
Oh my gosh, cruises are my favorite. So I worked, like you said in the intro, I worked on cruise ships. I worked for Princess Cruises and Royal Caribbean and Renaissance Cruises. And the thing about cruises, and I forgot to mention about Hilton All-Inclusive and some of the others, is what you want to check about affordability is there are times when you can check when you're, especially around different kinds of holidays, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, they're going to have specials where for each adult, you can bring one child or one teen for free. And sometimes on the cruise ship, the 3rd or 4th passenger in the room, so if you were traveling with 2 or 3 kids, those are complimentary. And that makes a very big difference in terms of the all-inclusive or a cruise, where you're really finding it much more affordable. And again, on the cruise, I personally love, you mentioned I've been to more than 100 countries. Part of that is I worked on the cruise and my house moved. During the night, in the morning, we were somewhere else. And so if you want to experience a bunch of places with your kids, but you don't want to be lugging your backpacks or finding another room, I think cruising is great for that. It's also great if you have multi-generations. Maybe you're going with your parents, and it's a way that everyone can do something different. You could show up at the island, someone can golf, someone can scuba dive, or on board. I was just on the Icon of the Seas, which is right now the largest cruise ship in the world. And it was kind of like a weird zip line around the ship. It's called Crown's Edge. It was really fun.
Oh my God, so fun. What about where people can find any kinds, you touched upon this before, coupons, promotions, or great packages to save a few dollars?
Yes. One of the places that I also really recommend that's all-inclusive is beaches. They're in Turks and Caicos and Jamaica. And again, like the all-inclusive hotels or the cruise lines, again, they have different packages. So if you sign up to get email alerts, they're going to be sharing with you when they have their specials. And again, that's with the kids free. I just love that at the end, you don't have any sticker shock. And at beaches and at Turks and Caicos and all the beaches in Sandals, there's no tipping. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about at the end.
So for people who are not travel savvy like you, will they score a better deal if they work with a travel agent?
You know, it's a confusing thing about travel agents. People ask me this all the time. The hotels and the cruise lines want you to book direct. And the travel agents can often offer a different price. And one of the things that travel agents can offer, right now I'm in Las Vegas for a family birthday. And one thing that happens with using a travel agent is you can't VIP yourself. So when you work with an agent, they might be able to offer you an upgrade, free breakfast. Sometimes booking direct, you can find that. It is challenging to figure out what's the best thing to do. For myself, I use booking.com very often, and they have a project where they have different levels of Genius. So I sometimes I'm able to get a better rate with my Genius status than sometimes as a journalist, I'm able to get, like a friends and family. And once my booking.com rate was better than the hotel's friends and family.
Wow. A lot of parents have credit cards, and those credit cards, you are allowed to accumulate miles. Do you recommend people use the miles to keep the airline costs down?
I absolutely am a huge, huge fan of using the airline credit cards to book and use the miles. For myself, I travel with luggage. I'm not a carry-on person because I actually travel with a hula hoop. So I have to check my luggage. And so having the credit card allows you to check your luggage, get your seats in advance, and have the miles. So for my book tour, almost everywhere I went, I was able to use my airline miles, which allowed me to go to many, many more places for my book tour. So I do recommend it. The one caveat I have is I often will get a new credit card. You can get every 2 years, you can get more miles in the introductory offer. But I always tell people, if you're thinking you want to get a house or you need some issues with the bank, you don't want to be opening and closing credit cards all the time. So it is something to watch out for, because a lot of people after divorce are rebuilding credit in their name, especially if you're changing names. So that's something to really think about with a financial advisor. But for myself, I do very much recommend using the airline credit cards for the miles.
Yeah, and that's going to take us to our next full screen, today's hot tip. You can earn airline miles by flying. You can apply, as Lisa just said, for a credit card where you can earn those reward points. Sometimes you could stay at certain hotels, dining, shopping, a lot of different ways that you can earn those miles. And like Lisa said, save yourself a few dollars. What about, and you touched upon this earlier, booking online. Now, are there a lot of advantages to doing that?
Sometimes there's a big advantage to booking online and direct. And again, you have to be a little bit of a researcher. For myself, we had a little family a tragedy and we needed to rebook something. And because I had booked tickets directly and I was able to call, I was able to cancel something with no penalty. So that is one advantage sometimes booking directly. If you book through a third-party site, the actual place can't necessarily help you. Travel agents are generally able to help you with cancellation. So it's unfortunately, there's no direct, clear answer. Like I said, when you use a travel agent, sometimes they can book you into a group and get you more amenities. Booking direct, you might be able to call and figure other things out. You do have to be a little bit of an investigator. And I when I'm trying to figure out which airline to fly or what miles to use or what's my best schedule, I take out a piece of paper and take notes and try to figure out what's going to be the best for the routing that I need. But I do use for booking flights, I look at a site called kiwi.com. And that sometimes helps me figure out what's going to be my best route or which airline do I want to investigate.
Is there a certain day of the week that prices are better than others?
You know, there is a lot of discussion on the internet about what's the best day of the week. I think one of the issues is if you can book further in advance, that usually helps the most, is the further you are out. Although for cruises, sometimes the closer you are, the better. So I always recommend for cruises, you can look at vacationstogo.com and they have a 90-day ticker. So sometimes closer in, there's better deals on their site. But again, what we've been talking about mostly, single moms with kids are pretty tied to specific dates. So if you know you can only go certain dates, like, you know, your kids are in school someplace where they penalize you if you take one extra day with the holiday, you need those exact dates. I recommend starting as early as you can for the best deals and the best prices and to make sure those dates are available.
Last question, because I know we're running out of time. True or false, can you find those last minute deals? Do they really exist if all of a sudden the parenting plan changes and parent A can no longer take the kids and parent B is like, oh, I got the kids and where are we going to scramble to go?
I think one of the issues is that you really need to use the travel F word, which of course is flexible. And that sometimes your best deal is going to be in your backyard. You know, we spend a lot of time running around thinking like, this is the ultimate destination. This is where I'm going to make the memories that my kid's going to remember forever. And sometimes you just need to get in your car and go half an hour away and maybe even have a staycation in your own city. I live in Los Angeles. People come from around the globe to travel to Los Angeles. And when I was first divorced, I did stuff in my own city. I went and I walked on the beach. I ate dinner in a neighborhood I hadn't been to very often. So especially if it's last minute, right now, I think that flights are very impacted and expensive. There's been issues with the airlines, with the pilots, with whatever. There's stuff happening in the world. So sometimes you just have to reconfigure. You know, I'm going to go in my own city. I'm going to go on Gold Star, which is the app we mentioned earlier, and see they have zoo tickets for $10 or there's a theater show for $12. You know, sometimes we don't think to take kids to the theater if it's, you know, $200, but if you can get a cheap ticket, that might be something they do remember for their whole life. So I think it's important are there deals? Yes. Do you want to spend, you know, stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning looking for them? Probably not. So it might be that you just go to your sister's house or your neighbor's house or, you know, start, like I said, I always think start small.
I love that. Lisa, I need to wrap this up because I am 1 foot out the door because you opened my eyes to so many wonderful destinations someone can do on a single budget. Lisa, again, thank you for being here.